Hey guys, today we are here to talk about the pros and cons of modifying your 10th gen Honda Civic Si. Normally you'd see Charlie doing the intro to these videos, but today it's going to be me and Tiny. We're probably the two people here that have had the most seat time with our 10th gen and probably the most equipped to have this conversation. So first we're going to start off with kind of a brief history of the Si, a little bit of knowledge behind it. We're going to go over to Tiny for that because he's going to know it a lot better than me.
So yeah, the first generation that we saw the Si in the States was the 3rd gen Civic. I believe chassis code EA is what it goes by. Some additions when they brought over the Si, you not only get a super sweet Si badge, but also a sunroof, new set of speakers, bigger brakes, and a bigger engine.
And that was kind of stuff that like back then was a really big deal in a car, and now it's like it's more commonplace, so it's less special on the more modern Sis, but back then it was like a huge separation point of
you had
why
basic
you wanted
economy
that car.
cars, and then you had the Si. And then if you were super cool, you had a Type R.
But back then it was not just a sporty car, it was kind of all of the luxury options to be something that could compete with, say, the likes of like the Mazdas and Toyotas and stuff like that, right? Like that was their answer to that.
Yeah, so Honda's always been super proud of their heritage in racing. So the Si has always been that branch between just a commuter car to something that was more of a sports car that you could bring to the track and kind of like a weekend warrior and an all-arounder, I guess you could say.
Motorsports has always been really important to Honda. I mean, there's many quotes out there from the founders of Honda, like, if you're not racing, you're not Honda. So the Si kind of ties that into something that the everyday man can afford. So the Type R has always been that halo car, the car that for us US people, we don't get, and or if you are looking at the Integra, it's more difficult to afford, hard to get. But the Si is something that most people that were into this could just go to the lot, buy that car, drive it off, and build it to their heart's content, or drive it stock and still be happy with it.
Every dealership had one Si at least on their lot parked up front.
That was what you drove by, like for us, and like, I mean, I guess he's a little bit younger than me, but like driving by in high school, seeing those cars, driving by in like middle school, seeing those cars, like that was always the exciting component of getting into the sport compact side of stuff. As we've moved into, say, the 10th gen, which is what we're talking about today, I'm gonna be the one to talk about kind of the more pros of modifying the car, and we're gonna have Tiny here talk about the cons. He's got a lot more hands-on with it. I've been a little more on the telling him what to do side of it, so I probably am not qualified to talk about the
He talks about the wins, I deal with the hard losses.
Ow, it's hot!
That was really stupid of you. When we look at pros of modifying these cars, I think the number one is going to be the entry into the market of the car. So the price of the car itself. It's a very affordable car. I mean, we're talking about, you know, mid $20,000 for a new vehicle. Honestly, that's hard to beat these days. So for perspective of a lower payment for anybody doing monthly payments, or you're able to put more money down and get more for your money when you purchase these cars, that's a huge factor in deciding to modify a car. Having that money left over once you purchase the car is going to be huge. If you can't afford to do that, you're not going to modify it. This video doesn't really matter to you.
So I know it's set up for nitrous. Where do we keep the bottom?
The next step is going to be the plethora of parts. So with the 10th gen, it actually was a little bit different in the get-go. So normally when a new Civic comes out, all the same manufacturers are making parts for that thing. I mean, you know that Skunk 2 is going to come to market. You know that Eibach's going to have stuff next day. All of the standards in the Honda world are going to have parts. With the 10th gen and the departure from the normal motor picks, it wasn't the same. It actually was kind of slow to market. People avoided the car for a little bit, not knowing how consumers were going to react to the small 1.5 liter turbo cars. But as we've seen that car progress since 2017 for the Si, 2016 for that motor in general, the aftermarket's kind of booming. So you have everywhere you turn, there's parts for that motor. Easy to modify. Anything you want to do to it, there's something available for that car. We're starting to see a lot more exterior modifications happen, which is usually that final realm of a car. Number 3, the actual ability to hold power. I mean, as we've proven with our shop car, these motors can make a lot of power and run every single day. I mean, you want to make 400 horsepower in this car. It's as much as a little bit of fuel system and a turbo kit away that you can make that power, and with a good tune, it's going to last for a very long time. We saw well north of 500 on ours, and we were trying to blow it up and struggled. So these little L15s have really proven their worth in the sense of making power reliably. I mean, any motor can make power once, but doing it over and over and over again is just a very impressive feat. That's something that Honda's known for. K-Series, B-Series, all these motors are known for being able to handle an immense amount of power for a small displacement 4-cylinder. Number 4, this is kind of something that is becoming more important this day and age. I don't know how excited I am about it because I'm not really good at it, but fuel mileage. The 1.5 Earth Dreams motors get like incredible fuel mileage, like 32 or 35 miles a gallon. I assume that's like if you're not flooring everywhere. So I've never actually.
Depends on the heft of your foot.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that. I get like whatever the minimum mileage is, that's what I get with the car.
0.
Yeah, it's just 0. It's a fun car that gets good gas mileage. That's something that is important for many people these days. I drive a giant truck to work, so I probably am not the market for this right now. The final thing I want to talk about is just how much you're getting for your money on these cars. So for the mid-20 price point mark, you're getting a backup camera, you're getting a side view mirror camera, you're getting a good sound system, you're getting a good infotainment system, really comfortable seats. Like everything about this car is enjoyable to be inside, and for the price point, it's honestly insane. You're getting things that I think we talked about. You're getting things that the Type R doesn't even get, which is just really impressive. It's for that price point, for what you're getting out of the car, how easy it is to modify, how much power you can make, and the price that it costs. To have an interior that actually is comfortable and have a car that stylistically looks really cool, there's really not many things on the market that fit into how well the SI is for the consumer these days. Now that I've said all the awesome stuff, I think we can move on to Tiny just complaining about things.
Welcome to the fucking roast of the Civic Si. I'm your host, Tiny Kyle, and I'm here to just absolutely destroy this thing. So clutches, trans, let's think of some other things. Everything inside of the motor is tiny.
We literally were like, all right, what if we put 50 pounds of boost and some nitrous at it? And then it was like, we'll lightly blow up.
Okay, what's some other things? So right off the bat, something that dang near everybody's going to encounter is the stock clutch on this car. It's just not going to hold up to the abuse, to the job. We were seeing
terrible.
It's absolutely terrible. Horrendous. It's the worst.
So if you have like any plans to modify this car, just immediately like.
Gotta go.
He's getting really dramatic here. Check out our website, check out one of our sales reps. There are a million different options. We're not even gonna go into that, but like just get rid of it. Yep. Gone, bye.
We were seeing on some cars we were doing R&D work, just stage 1, which is just a flash. Already feeling some slip on the street, on the dyno. Honestly, an underspec clutch for the torque that this motor is actually able to put out. I mean, the car's pretty peppy, and even in completely bone stock form, without even a flash, it makes a decent amount of torque for the size of the engine and how it's set up. So right off the bat, everybody should be thinking about what's the clutch I want to go with as soon as they purchase this car and think they want to modify it. The next thing, sticking with the drivetrain. These transmissions, once you get over that 400 mark, turn into just a bunch of glass and a piece of metal. We saw quite a number of failures, second, third, and fourth gear. They just broke. And
the gears are just really small inside of them. Yeah. The whole car is built for like economy, lightweight, fuel mileage, things like that.
Sport economy.
Sport economy, and like what we saw was with 450 horsepower plus, it's driving the car hard. You just sheared the gears right off because they're small.
Yeah, under many different conditions, we broke many gear sets. So much so, it's led to us reaching out to a couple of other vendors to, develop different gear sets. So PPG and Sands is also developing gear sets for these transmissions. So fear not, you have an option to upgrade these, and those are obviously some really trusted companies that make fabulous parts and have great support. So
we have the PPG gear set as an option, Sands gear set that we worked directly with. There's also the M Factory HPD fourth gear set that's available. So there's kind of a wide range of mild to wild options for those of you that are modifying the car.
As we start to see in the modern age, things starting to switch to direct injection for its efficiency, to put it simply. We are seeing that they have limits in stock form with fueling. In the olden days, it was easy enough to swap out your injectors. You just bought a set of injectors from any number of companies, whether it's ID, FIC, or so be it. Nowadays, it's not quite that simple. So when we talk about fueling, there's more than just a low pressure pump and injectors that you have to consider. You have a high pressure pump along with that and the direct injectors. Ourselves, as well as some other companies, are starting to develop solutions for that. So we were starting to see over 350 horsepower, a need for supplemental fueling, and we've worked towards developing a number of different upgrade paths that, from, like Daelen said, mild to wild, to reach that. Not all of those have come to market yet, but they are in development and still are a priority for us and many others, because it is going to be a pressing issue.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on that, I mean, we initially went to a port fuel adapter. I mean, that's probably the most common thing that you see on the market to make power on direct injection cars. You just add a little spacer, put more injectors in, make an auxiliary controller, It's just super simple. Is it the most efficient and effective way? No. So to complement that part, which is a little more difficult to install, a little more effort to do, we've been working on some options of larger injectors, whether that's utilizing some other OEM Honda options, and then also modified high pressure pumps to flow a little bit more fuel. Those are going to be more expensive. And modifying these cars, modifying these fuel systems are just more money than the kind of standard stuff in the past. As we see that happen, we're gonna see people eclipse that 400 horsepower, 450 horsepower a lot easier because the direct bolt on, no custom work involved. This could be viewed as a negative, but also just, we're gonna see this happen with most modern vehicles. Would you say there's anything else that you kind of see as a downside of modifying these cars?
You know, yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna be super jealous, so you're driving a sick ass Honda and they're stuck driving something lame.
How'd that sound? Pretty incredible. That was awesome.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing we've ever talked about, and even prior to this video, and something we saw fairly early on when we were racing the car, is we did see the factory oil pump come apart. Now, is that something I would say everybody needs to rush out and replace right away? No, but it's something to keep in mind that if you're going to be driving the car very hard, if you're building a motor, it's a very easy component to switch out. Not to go super detailed about these, but factory oil pumps are definitely made with cost effectiveness in mind. They're a powdered metal, they can be fairly weak. If you over rev the car, if you misshift the car, if you are really abusive to the car, you can start to see them crack and wear. We worked with a company called Boundary Pumps to develop the pump for this car. That there are solutions out there, so if you hear this as a negative out there, it's a fairly cheap, I mean sub $300 solution to fix that problem.
Keep in mind that actually I think every single product that we've ever developed or helped develop, obviously we always keep ease of installation in mind. That's one of our #1 priorities. And I can say without a doubt, every single part that we've developed or helped develop is able to be swapped out, changed, installed, whatever word you want to use right there, on the jack stands with the engine in the car.
And you can say that because I make him do it. So I think we've talked about all the things that we would consider pros and cons. To me personally, the pros definitely outweigh the cons in these cars. It's a fun, absolute blast of an automobile. He tries to steal ours whenever he gets a chance. And honestly, we have both the SI and the Type R here. And in many cases, I'd probably hop into our SI. And that's not to take away from the Type R, but for the bang for your buck and what we've seen out of the chassis and the engine combo, it's one of the best automobiles out there right now for an entry-level person looking to modify the car.
It's a car that's always stayed true to its roots, always had a manual transmission, even up to this day, and continues to carry the legacy that Honda set all the way back in the day in 1984 when only my grandpa was alive.
Shout out to Kyle's grandpa. He
Shout
watches
out to my
every single
grandpa,
video.
yeah.
It's awesome. Hi, Grandpa. You should come in and check out the shop. You're welcome to do it whenever you want. Yeah, so we've gone over the pros, the cons, talked about some history of the SI. Next part is to hear from you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all the other stuff I forget about that Charlie knows way more about than me. Let us know below what cars you want us to talk about, what other vehicles you want us to get into. I know I've done the Evo in the past. There's probably been a bunch more. So let us know what vehicles that you want us to talk about, history, whether we should put Kyle on camera again.
You can.
And as always, tell us what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. And if you have any questions about the products themselves, we've got a sales staff on the phones, on email, other
Instagram.
stuff. Instagram, yeah, slide into our DMs. So let us know what you guys think of this stuff and let us know what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, and we'll continue to do that. And as always, thank you. We appreciate you. Without you guys, we're nothing.
Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.